A lot of people think that Coastal Carolina and BYU played the game of the year. Now it appears as though Coastal Carolina is playing the game of the postseason against Liberty. 34-all, 41 seconds left to play, and Liberty has just fumbled at the Chanticleer's 2-yard line, going in for the game-winning touchdown, or, of course, the lead touchdown with about 40 seconds left to play. What a game. What a game at the Cure Bowl between the Flames and the Chanticleers. Group of 5 action in a bowl season that has been largely drab and disappointing and boring. Most of the games have not been competitive, but we've got a barn burner in this one. I don't know if they're going to review this play, but I just saw minutes ago as I was recording some ACC bowl previews that Coastal Carolina had tied up the game, and it looked like it took like that long for Liberty to get right down the field back on them and all the way down to the 2-yard line. And in crossing the goal line, look at the ball. Looks like it's laying on the goal line, or the front tip of the ball is touching the goal line in this one. So quite the dramatics here, as we will watch together what could be overtime with either Liberty reversing the review and reclaiming the football inside the 5-yard line, or most likely Coastal Carolina is going to take it over at their own 1-yard line with 41 seconds left to play and going to have to be mighty careful with the football. Good stuff. Good stuff in this one. Appreciate everybody jumping online. The phone lines will be open at 860-325-3687, talking college football. We can talk today's play. We can talk about, of course, the bowl game starting up back on Tuesday with the Power 5 finally getting into play with Miami taking on Oklahoma State and Colorado, Texas are the games on Tuesday night. And then, of course, we've got the college football playoffs only days away. It's nice to not have to wait for the college football playoffs 25, 30, 35 days away. We only had to wait 11 days, and now we're down to, a mere 5. So that's nice. Still reviewing this play, and it appears as though Coastal Carolina's got it. He did not break the plane, and Coastal Carolina recovered the ball, and they're going to have to really protect the ball. This is a huge play in the game, obviously, but they're still going to have to protect the ball with only 41 seconds left at their own 1 or 2-yard line. All right. Go Dolphins. If he would be so kind there, RCKVYL, whatever your name is, that there it is. Liberty is fumbled, and Coastal Carolina takes over. 34-all, 41 seconds left at their own 2-yard line. I actually, as I will get off here at whatever time that is after I take your phone calls, set up the DVR for Dolphins Raiders. So I have no idea what's going on in that game. I could care less if I find out the final score, but I would rather not if it works out that way, because that looked like it was going to be a pretty decent game. Now we'll see if Coastal Carolina can work their way out of their own end of the field. Just whoa, they had a bit of a jump, and Liberty's all excited about that, but it's gonna gain them about 2 inches, half the distance to the goal line. All right, David, good to see you. Mr. HD letting us know we've got great college and NFL games going on right now. I think I saw 16-all late in the Dolphins-Raiders game. Vinay, hey, Mark, we got another top tight end recruit coming to us, Buckeyes in 2022. Had a chance to speak with him on Twitter. Bennett's a class act. Good to know. Rachel, I am using my mother's account. Matthew Campbell is my father's YouTube account, so I'm the same person. Matthew, good to see you. Playing the role of Rachel Flowers tonight is Matthew Campbell. Hey, Dalton, good to see you. Rachel, Matthew, how do you fumble at the 2-yard line? Did you see the Texas TCU game this year? Just ask Keontae Ingram. Did the same thing for Texas. Alabama football fan, roll tide. Hit that like button. Thank you, sir. And unless something dramatic happens here, like a turnover, we are headed to overtime. SPH Huntsville, good to see you. And while we're taking in the action, I don't want to dampen the spirits of everyone about what has become and is most definitely the most important college football news of the day, but we will get to that a little bit later. Let's kick in for overtime here. So if anybody's got any comments or questions you want to leave in the live chat, I'll certainly take them on. Otherwise, we will watch together here in overtime of the Cure Bowl. This was such a strange play. Yeah, look at those Coastal Carolina defenders on that play. They certainly had the right approach. They knew the game is basically going to be over if we don't stop this guy and strip the ball. So they had him surrounded with 3 to 4 guys. They just took the ball away from him. So here we go. Hold up the big 5. OT. Liberty was a 7-point underdog in this one. I took the Flames in the 7. So hopefully they can avoid losing by the dreaded touchdown in overtime. That's always the fear of those people that put a few bucks on the games when they go into overtime. Sometimes you just want your team to go ahead and just lose in regulation. Just lose by a game-winning field goal. You're down by 4. You're down by 3. Just lose. I got a touchdown. Just lose. And then somebody comes back and forces overtime, and all of a sudden, crud. Yes, David. Liberty tight end Eric Green, coached by Sam Retigliano, then went on to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dale Sherm, I don't think we've seen you in quite some time, Dale. Good to see you. What would be worse than Ohio State losing to Clemson again? For a Buckeyes fan, I can think of a few other things. Yes, Lions fan 02. This has been the best bowl game so far this year, by far. The bowl season has been pretty much just a boring drab of games, of blowout games. The 2 games today, the game right before this one of the 2 games was pretty close, and now my mind's blanking. Louisiana and Texas San Antonio. I watched most of that game. That turned out to be a pretty good ball game. I was a bit surprised. Louisiana looked like a much better team in the second half. And they were up 24-7, about to make it 31-7. They turned the ball over. Texas San Antonio got back in the game. Texas San Antonio's coach and some of their best defensive players didn't make the trip, and they hung in there. SPH Huntsville, let's be real, Mark. You know the Group of 5 Grinch. Can you imagine this Coastal team playing next week at Bama, then Texas A&M, then Auburn, then Georgia? Can I imagine it? No, I can't imagine it. It would still be interesting to watch because when these group of 5 teams go up against the Power 5 teams, they tend to do pretty well. They tend to do better than most of us give them credit for. The New Year's 6 bowl structure went into effect the same year as the college football playoff, the college football invitational that started in 2014. And this is only a sample of 6 games, but the group of 5 is 3-3. And actually, the year before was that Baylor Central Florida game in the Fiesta Bowl in which UCF won. And so in New Year's 6 bowl games, the group of 5 has beaten the Power 5 4 of the last 7. And you're talking about a grind there, but that grind is not typical. You have taken some of the best teams in the SEC and lined them up. So there would also be included in there, to be fair, they typically would not be playing Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Georgia in a row. There might be a Missouri in there, a Vanderbilt in there, Arkansas, and some other fairly bad teams. Vinay, hey Mark. Quinn Ewers, Buckeye quarterback commit? Yes. 2022. Just played his first game back from injury and threw a beautiful strike for a touchdown. Definitely check out the highlight of the greatness coming. I got to tell you, Vinay, it would be foolish for me to promise to you that I'm going to check out that highlight. There's just too many things to do in life, just too much to do, and I'm not checking out high school football games. Yakov 22, good case to be made that Jamie Chadwell is the national coach of the year. Absolutely. Jamie Chadwell, Tom Allen. That's about where it starts and stops for me. I don't know that Carl Durrell in Colorado played enough games that I would consider him in the mix. For me, it's between Chadwell and maybe Billy Napier. They did split the Sun Belt Conference Championship because they couldn't play the conference championship game, and then you've got Tom Allen. All right, here we go in overtime from the 25. SPH Huntsville, I understand your point, but OT in abundance like that, I don't know what that means. Not one game, 5 or 6 tough games back to back. Yes, I understand the point. The point's been making 1,000 times, and I partially agree with it. I don't agree with it to the extent that everybody makes an excuse for every time. Many people make excuses for Power 5 teams losing bowl games to Group of 5 teams. Because they make the excuse of if they played in a conference and they had to play every week. So when Boise State played Georgia the first game of the season and beat their just the brakes off them, 42-10. This was about 10 or 12 years ago. Why do we necessarily think that Georgia would be a better team over the course of 12 games when Boise State was a much better team that night? Yes, your point is well taken. Your point is well established. And it's pretty much conventional thought that, yes, the bigger, tougher, stronger, faster athletes are going to prove more capable over the long haul in the season, and the depth of the roster is going to take over. But still has yet to be proven. And it won't be proven, unfortunately. And every time a Group of 5 team matches up against a Power 5 team and wins the game, I will be the last person that will discount that win. Because if you're a competitor, then you take accountability for the results on the field, for what's on the scoreboard, regardless of how you felt that your team showed up or didn't show up or cared or didn't care. That's a big excuse. And if nothing else, I actually would have more respect for the likes of, let's say, Georgia and Georgia fans when they lost that game to Texas a few years ago with the Sugar Bowl, had they said, you know what, we did our best. We brought our best. They were better than us tonight. We lost. I would have more respect for that attitude than the attitude of making excuses and saying we didn't care to be here. Because my thought process there is then you're not much of a competitor if you don't want to be playing football. If you don't want to be in this game, if you're not a competitor and it doesn't excite you to go up against a quality team and show yourself and perform on national television before College Football Nation, then you're not much of a competitor. One of the great mysteries of college football is that it provides us with more questions that cannot be answered than any other sport because of the ridiculous format and because the teams can't play enough games. And we don't provide them with a schedule that at least gives us more evidence. So we've got a field goal on the board. It would be fine with me if Coastal Carolina just went ahead and won the game right here. SPH Huntsville, Bama played all those teams. So did Texas A&M. I understand they didn't play them in a row, though. They didn't play them in a row without playing, in Texas A&M's case, Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Arkansas and Mississippi State. And Alabama played Missouri and Kentucky. So you left out those teams. Yakov 22. Mark, do you miss the tie? No, I don't miss the tie. I'm not in love with the overtime session, but I don't have a better idea. I think it's fair, and that's the most important thing. Anytime there's a rule in sports, oh man. So the Raiders kicked the field goal to take the lead with 25 or 30 seconds left, and the Dolphins still had enough time to get it down and kick the field goal to apparently win the game. Wow. Big win for the Dolphins. They haven't had a big win in forever. This is going to be Miami's first playoff season in about 5 years, right? I remember them losing a playoff game in Pittsburgh about 5 years ago with not Kellen Moore, the other Moore, Matt Moore at quarterback. So, no, I don't miss the ties. Michigan had an undefeated season in 1990 with 3 ties. Is that 1990, 1991, 91, 92, 92. Mark, what about Matt Campbell? Oh, for Coach of the Year. Sure. Matt Campbell, our guy Jamie Chadwell, and Tom Allen. And what about Pat Fitzgerald? You know what I'm kind of tired of hearing? I've heard this from I don't know how many people in various places this week that, and I've said this many times here, I believe that Alabama is the best team in the country. I am not saying for sure that they're going to win the national championship. There we go. We got a block field goal and Liberty wins anyway. So the kid that fumbled the ball at the 2-yard line can be relieved that he did not blow the game. Liberty wins to complete a 10-1 season. And I could possibly foresee both of these teams finishing in the top 25. That actually makes sense. That was an excellent game. I feel fortunate that I was able to catch most of it. That's very cool. That is very cool. keep in mind that Liberty played 3 ACC teams. They beat Syracuse, I believe, by 17. They lost NC State, and their one loss by 1, and they beat Virginia Tech in that crazy game at the finish. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yeah, the team up north had 3 ties in 1992. Because I remember that that was the year one of those ties was to Ohio State.
Sure.
Gordon Gee called that the greatest victory ever at Ohio State.
Yep, 1992.
Yeah. Otherwise known as Kirk Herbstreit's last game at Ohio State, but
his last game before his last regular season game.
Regular season game, yes. The legendary career of Kirk Herbstreit as Ohio State's quarterback. By the way,
They had a decent year that year.
He threw 5 touchdowns, Mark. He really wasn't that great.
I said they had a decent year that year. They had their best season since 86 that season.
Yeah, they were all right. I mean, I still think Cooper's best team was 93. That team that finally beat BYU.
That was their best. That was Cooper's best team?
Well, to date, his best team was 93. That was his best team to date. His first really good team was 93. His first 10-win team was 93.
Sure. I'm just saying that in 92, they finished the regular season 8-2-1, and that was their best team since 86.
Yeah, I guess because of the tie. Yeah, you're right. Because they had some other like 8-3 seasons under Cooper. But yeah, I guess because of the tie that they ended up losing to Garrison Hurst in Georgia in that Citrus Bowl. Good game.
Yeah, they lost, of course, to Illinois. They lost to Illinois in a game in which they kept fumbling, and it was Eddie George that was mostly the culprit, and they missed a bunch of field goals by Tim Williams. And I think the score was 18-16. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Wisconsin that year in Madison.
Right. Yep.
I believe that game was 20-16. So they lost 2 very close games, or they would have been undefeated when they played Michigan.
Well, remember, they went up to the Carrier Dome and beat Marvin Graves, Paul Pasquale's team, crushed them, a top 10 Syracuse team up in the Carrier Dome that year.
Yep. They
That's
did.
a good win.
Yeah, it was at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, a couple things I wanted to get to. First of all, thanks, by the way, my condolences to Todd Jordan and his family. That was just a tragic situation today. Not good. That's just all a guy that had his whole life in front of him. So, R.I.P. Rest in peace. So, a couple of things I wanted to get to, Mark. First of all, I mean, you were talking before. I was going to ask you a question. Did you have any? I posted this in the chat. Did you have any future guests lined up when it comes to? By the way, any luck in maybe getting Joel Klatt to come on? Maybe once for an interview.
The only route I know to go after Joel Klatt would be to contact him just blindly on Twitter. I've done that a couple times, but I guess I could be a little bit more creative to try to find a way. And with other people I know, maybe there's some type of in there.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to see if you ever had a chance to either Klatt, of course Herbie would be, that'd be awesome. I would love to sit there and talk to Kirk Herbstreit. I did have one suggestion, and I know you don't recover, I mean, you do cover recruiting, but if you ever had a chance to get on Steve Wiltfong from 24/7, he does a really good job of covering recruiting if you ever get a chance to talk to him.
Okay. Well, let me just clarify that I want us to cover recruiting here, and I hope to do a decent job covering recruiting. I cover it as best I can through the guests that I bring on, specifically from Rivals and 247 Sports. But I don't personally, you're not going to hear me give some type of expert analysis on recruiting myself. I'll bring the people on that will discuss and break down recruiting.
Yeah, and I know that you bring on like the teams, the people that cover the teams. I was just saying, if you ever had a person that like covers it, and knows who the top high school prospects are, he does a really good job of it for the 24/7 Sports Composite.
Okay.
Of doing that, just as a suggestion.
I've got his name written down right here.
Yeah, I wanted to. By the way, have you guys? Did you do your picks with Steve Merrill yet for the bowl games?
We did. Oh my goodness, I'm losing track. I thought that we did the first few games. Yeah, we did the first few games, and then we were going to get back together. So most of these recent games we missed, we're going to have to get together. I posted my picks, but I did not record a segment with him.
Well, I just want you to know I have had no luck with the Steve Merrill picks, but I've had lots of luck with the Mark Rogers picks.
Well,
so
that's
I'm
nice
sticking with the Mark Rogers picks.
Well, thank you.
So,
these group of five. I'm sorry to cut you off, Dave, if I did. But these group of five games, I never pick them as well as the Power Five games because those are the games, those are the teams that I'm watching, and I was just I thought, man, I've got to. Well, I don't know how much my reputation I've got to uphold, but I want to have a decent bowl record here this year. And I'm looking at these group of five games, and it's like throwing darts. And of course, we've got no non-conference games to try to compare these teams. And I picked 2 out of 3 against the spread today. And the other one was really just kind of a stupid pick. But then again, Georgia State, Western Kentucky, what do I know about these teams? I'm not basing my selection on anything I really know from watching the teams. It's more about score comparisons. Now, this last game here, I knew more about these 2 particular teams, and I had watched them a little bit, especially Coastal Carolina.
Right. I got one that I'm looking at, Mark. I'm thinking about, and I know you do a lot of Miami coverage, but I'm thinking about taking Oklahoma State minus the 2.5 against Miami.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that Oklahoma State team. I love the running back. I think the quarterback isn't bad. I know King has had a really good year for Miami, but I'm leaning towards Oklahoma State minus the 2.5. What do you think of that game?
So you know that there's not going to be a Chuba Hubbard playing for Oklahoma State. He's opted out, and their best wide receiver, Tylan Wallace, is not playing.
Oh, Hubbard opted out?
Yes.
Was that recently?
I would say in the last 4 or 5 days.
Oh, okay. Shoot. Because that was one of the games that I was looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tylan Wallace, I don't know if you're familiar with him. I think he's really good, and he's not playing.
Well, I mean, Hubbard definitely changes it for me because he's a stud. And I just, I don't know. That changes my pick on that. Yeah, Miami, they pull that out then, especially if they're without the best receiver and their star running back.
Miami's not playing their 2 best defensive ends. Their bookends, neither one of those guys are playing, Quincy Roche and Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, but King might be able to put enough points on the board for them to win that game, though.
Sure. Yeah, that's
a really good year.
Yeah, he has. He really has. The first game, he really impressed me as a passer. Not that I thought he was a bad passer, but the first game he really looked like he was just dropping dimes the whole game. It was that Friday night game against NC State. They really needed him to come through because their defense was, not impressive that night, and he played a tremendous game. Yeah, he's had a great season.
Yeah, I mean, look at the numbers: 22 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. That's pretty good numbers. So, he's been pretty. So, obviously, I know I've heard on your Miami chats a few times. He's the reason that they've been able to win the games that they've won. To a large extent. So, I was thinking about Oklahoma State, but now that you tell me about the opt-outs, I might go a different direction. What do you think about Wisconsin against Wake Forest?
I think that's I didn't know what the spread was. I just recorded 3 ACC previews before we jumped on here, and I understand that Wisconsin's a 7-point favorite.
Yeah.
Oh boy, as you know, their offense really struggled down the stretch after the first two ball games. They beat Minnesota. I think Wisconsin is a much better than a 3-3 football team.
I do too. Yeah, I was bigger on Mertz earlier in the year, but I was kind of looking at the game mainly because I just don't think Wake Forest is that good. I've watched them a little bit this year, and I'm just not buying them. Although I just don't know what Wisconsin team I get. Do I get the earlier in the year Wisconsin, or do I get the team that looked shaky at times this year?
There are certain football programs that I trust their approach to any game, and Wisconsin would be one of them. I trust that they're going to treat this as a business trip. They're going to take pride in playing the game and winning the game, and there's not going to be a letdown in that way.
Right. Yeah, I think if Mertz plays fairly well, I think they could definitely cover that 7 points, against Wake Forest. By the way, did you think that the line in that Georgia-Cincinnati game's a little bit high?
I haven't looked at any. I've only looked at the lines game by game as I've made predictions. I haven't looked ahead. What is the line on that game?
Well, I just double-checked it. It's actually not as high as I thought it would be. Right now, I'm seeing like 7.5.
Oh.
So I actually might take, yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to say like 15.
Yeah, I was thinking that was going to be much higher. Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia. I'm taking Georgia.
If there's one player on that field for Georgia that's going to be motivated, I would think it would be JT Daniels, because basically he was inserted into the lineup. They played a lot of nondescript, under the radar games after everybody had forgotten about them. And now he's going to be able to play on a big stage in a major bowl game. And I think he's going to be motivated to play well.
I do too. I think Georgia's a different team with the way Daniels has been playing lately. I know Georgia's got some players sitting. And I think Luke will have that team ready to play. And I know they've had a great year. But, gosh, Georgia's just really talented. And 7.5, I think Georgia wins that game by at least 2 touchdowns. I really do.
Not to skip ahead here, Dave, but I did not verify this. I should have, but I understand that Cincinnati's non-conference schedule next year includes Notre Dame and Indiana. Did you hear that?
I've not seen that, no.
I've got to look that up. I'm going to look it up right this second, actually, because when I heard that, I thought, now, would that not have settled this situation this year with Cincinnati? They played those two teams?
Well, it was interesting, Mark. Reese Davis posed an interesting situation as far as, how you could ever see a Power 5 make the playoffs. And the one year that he pointed out, do you remember the year that Houston played Oklahoma and beat them?
Yes,
Tom Herman team
2016.
2000. Right.
It was the year before, or it was the week before the Ohio State game, or maybe 2 weeks.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Buckeyes went in there and clobbered Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma. What I was going to say was this. I think the path for a non-Power 5 is this. I think they've got to be able to pull the upset in the non-conference.
Yep.
Play a top 10 team, okay? And then if they could, let's say, beat a top 10 team in the non-conference, and maybe they're fortunate to catch, let's say, a top 15 team in their conference and beat them, and maybe even possibly a top 20 to 25 team, and they would end the season with, let's say, a top 10 win, a top 15 win, and maybe a top 25 win, let's say, or top 20 win, and then they catch a couple of conference champions with maybe 1 loss or 2 losses, even better yet. There's a path there. And I know you've always said that the non-Power 5 are going to have their easier chances, obviously against 2-loss, Power 5 conference champions. But if they were to run that table against that type of schedule, they might get into over a 1-loss conference champion. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that if they do what you just outlined, regardless of what some of these other conferences do, they pretty much just did what Clemson does every year. I don't even know if Clemson does that. Beats a top 10, a top 15, and a top 25?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's plausible. I think that's plausible, depending on the strength of their conference. Because, I mean, what has Cincinnati beaten this year? They've beaten, a top 15 team and a top 20 team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right?
Well, Tulsa's a top 25 team, so they beat them. And who's their top 15? The top 15 would be, it depends on whether you're ranking, going by the rankings at the time of the game or the rankings at the conclusion of the season.
Yeah, I was thinking at the time they played them.
SMU was in the top 25. Yeah, SMU, and maybe Memphis.
At the time they played them. Right?
Think about Clemson's schedule last year. I don't know that they played a ranked team the whole season.
Yeah, because I don't think, Miami or North Carolina or none of those teams were ranked last year, right?
Well, they didn't play Miami. They played North Carolina, and they were 7-6. Right, okay. Nobody in their division was ranked. Louisville was the second best team in their division last year, and they finished 8-5, so they were only 7-5 in the regular season. They played a Virginia team that was probably barely ranked when they played them. I think they were like 23rd when they played them in the ACC championship game. And they played Texas A&M, who went 7-5, so they weren't ranked. If you look at the final rankings, or even the final regular season rankings, they might have played one ranked team who was barely ranked.
Right. Well, I'm just looking at Cincinnati's schedule, Mark. I mean, Army, SMU, and Tulsa were all ranked within the top 25 at the time they played them. Okay? So if they would have gotten, let's say if they would have gotten, let's say, a Notre Dame kind of victory this year, or something like that, a legitimate top 10 win in the non-conference to go along with that kind of schedule, I mean, tell me how that's not a worthy playoff resume. If you're throwing a top 10 win.
As I conjectured, I have pulled up Cincinnati's 2021 schedule. Listen to this, Dave. Week 3, they go to Indiana. Then they have a bye.
Right.
Then they go to Notre Dame.
Wow.
They play at Indiana and Notre Dame back to back. That's phenomenal.
Well, think about that, Mark. That's a top maybe 20 to at least maybe a top 20 team maybe in Indiana, or top 5 team. And Indiana may take a step back next year, but I think they might be a top 20 to 25 team. And then Notre Dame's probably going to be at least a top 10 to 15 team. I know sometimes after their playoff years, they take a little bit of a step back, but I think that they could still be a top 15 team next year. And then imagine if they beat another top 15 or not top 20 team within their conference next year.
Sure. They're going to play SMU, Tulsa, UCF, Navy, and then a conference championship game. And obviously, if they don't play in the conference championship game, this entire conversation is null and void. So they're going to be playing another good team.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the whole key. Well, because remember once Boise, after they kind of got on a little bit of run, they started to schedule some major non-conference teams, shortly there. I mean, in the years after their big win over Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oregon twice. At least twice.
Virginia Tech,
Georgia.
Right.
A number of other Pac-12 North teams. Oregon State a couple times. But in regards to really big teams, those are the ones that come to mind. They played Ole Miss about 5 years ago in Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, they beat Oregon the year that Ohio State beat them in the Rose Bowl. That was the game where I think Garrett Blunt punched the guy.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it just shows you. I mean, it can be done. I mean, who's to say Cincinnati couldn't be the next Boise State?
Yeah.
Plausible.
We need to do one of two things here, Dave. And I was going round and round with somebody about this last night. They either need to be legitimately included or not included.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Mark. Let's say they have, how much do you think with the playoff committee, let's say Cincinnati has one of these dream seasons and they go to the playoff and they do get, let's say, Michigan State kind of dump trucked, a 38-0, a 38-3, and it's just ugly. How much do you think still the playoff embarrassments play down the road for a team like that maybe getting a second chance down the road?
Well, if the college football playoff selection committee is anything like the rest of us, or what I see, the comments that are made by most of the people in college football nation, it seems to hang around these programs' neck for years and years and years.
Yeah, I wonder how much of an albatross that always is, Mark. Because it's not like, are they ever going to not take Oklahoma again because they got thoroughly destroyed by LSU last year?
Exactly.
I know that's not necessarily apple to orange because everybody's going to say Oklahoma's a blue blood and they're a major conference, and I get all that, but still, they got destroyed by LSU, so does that mean, they're out for forever? I don't think so.
We saw in year number 1 a team lose by 39 points, Florida State to Oregon. We saw the game that you mentioned, the Michigan State 38-point loss to Alabama, that I will make a ridiculous comment, and I shouldn't even put myself in this position to say, people are going to laugh, that game was actually closer than it would appear. That game was, so we had a 7-0 game with about 4 to 5 minutes left in the first half, and Connor Cook threw a pick in the end zone.
Right,
Michigan State had it down to like the 8-yard line. Anyway, it was I think it was 10-0 it's either 7-0 or 10-0 at half. So it wasn't like 28-0 in the first quarter, game over. It was a slow demolition. But yes, it was 38-0. It was a demolition. I'm not trying to discount that in any way. But to your point, we've already seen this with Power 5 conference champions getting obliterated. So it's I would hope that, again, there just has to be some determination made as to whether to include these teams or not, officially not include them or give them a path. Now, it doesn't have to be as equitable as the Power 5, because there can be a disclaimer that is obvious to all of us that they don't play the schedule and they're not as good, but to give them some entry. Give them an undefeated team as an entry, or the best of the group of 5 each and every year, which would go to the best overall record, and then have some kind of tiebreaker system if there are 2 12-1 teams, for example, and give them some entry.
Right. I just wonder, Mark, whether the ultimate answer is just going to be eventually expansion.
Yep.
I think that's what we've got to get to, and hopefully, as you mapped out, that comes sooner rather than later, right?
Exactly. Thanks, Dave. I'm going to take these other calls.
You take care, Mark. Bye-bye.
Oh, just missed somebody. Sorry to miss your calls. I am open now. Please call back. SBH Huntsville. All I'm saying is I'm watching this team playing Liberty. I can't imagine what I'm seeing being successful over a season against Power 5 teams back to back. I completely agree. I completely agree, Huntsville. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello, Mark. It's Ben.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Good. I'm good. So I was calling because one of your last callers said that you cover Miami a lot, and so that just made me think of a guy that's on Florida that transferred from Miami, Lorenzo Lingard.
Mm-hmm.
Lorenzo Lingard, who was a running back for Miami. You probably know who he is. He was a 5-star transfer. And so what are your opinions on him, and do you think that next year he would be good, especially with Florida bringing in DeMarcus Bowman?
Well, if he's as good as advertised, then of course he's a great addition. He was a 5-star running back. I've never seen him play, so I don't know anything past his high school credentials, which again are immense. that he should be a tremendous addition to the program, especially for a team, as you know. I don't know, what would we consider to be Florida's last? Florida's had typically, during this last 5 to 6 years, has had a stable of good running backs. But when was the last time that they had a great running back at Florida? Let me see. Who's your guy? Who's the last great one?
The last great one that I know of, like great.
Yes.
Is Emmitt Smith. I don't think that we've had exactly a great running back since Emmitt Smith, but like you said, we've had some pretty, stable guys, like Michael P. Ryan,
sure.
Kelvin Taylor, Fred Taylor, I would say.
Oh, Fred Taylor. I would say as a collegiate and as an NFL player, he was borderline great. I refrain from saying the word great unless I equate great to Hall of Fame. But Fred Taylor was a borderline Hall of Famer in the NFL and was a great college running back. I would go with Fred Taylor. I'm not coming up with the name of the player that he was a grinder around 2012, 13, 14. Oh shoot!
I know
what was
you're
his
talking
name?
about here. I want to say, is it Kelvin Taylor that you're talking about?
No.
No. Matt Jones.
It wasn't Matt Jones, but Matt Jones is another good one. Yeah.
Oh, because I feel like that was around the Matt Jones days, 2012.
Yeah. Well, it was. Era. This is driving me nuts now, so I'm going to find who I'm talking about here. Again, we're talking about a guy who gained 1,000 yards a season, but he wasn't great. And when I say 1,000, I'm talking about barely 1,000. I'm talking about
I know you're not talking about Kelvin Taylor.
No. If you go back to 2016, throw in Jordan Scarlett, who had almost 1,000 yards in 2016. Scarlett,
yeah, he was a good one.
Michael P. Ryan, yeah.
He was in that whole entire credit card, or not credit card, the book thing. So.
Okay, Kelvin Taylor had 1,000 yards in 2015 with 13 touchdowns. I liked him. I am thinking of. Okay, he definitely played in 2012, the year you guys beat Johnny Manziel at Kyle Field. Mac Brown, Matt Jones. Okay, I got to go back one other season, and if I don't see this name, Mike Gillislee. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I forgot about him.
1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns in 2012.
Yeah.
You know that Chris Rainey before then. Chris
Rainey.
The 2012 team, I know that it ended in a bad way against Louisville in the Sugar Bowl, but that to me was a team that was very lightly regarded and very underrated. That team played a killer schedule, and they went 11-1 and should have went to the SEC championship game.
I'm not going to hold on to much on that game except for that one hit on Teddy Bridgewater. I'll never forget watching that just on YouTube over and over again a couple of years ago. I'll hold on to that, but the rest of that is not, not exactly fun. And then also, so with DeMarcus Bowman coming in, who is a 5-star transfer from Clemson, so
sure.
Obviously I think Dan Mullen is one of the better transfer portal guys in college football right now, getting guys out of the transfer portal as we saw last year, and then now with DeMarcus Bowman this year. And do you think that that's going to be like a stable one, like we've had 2019, 2018, and so on and so forth, or do you think that's going to be not elite, but a good one, at least top 25 with 2 former 5-stars at the running back position, or do you think it's just going to be a stable one like it usually has been? And also Emory Jones.
So is the running back position going to be better than it's been? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Well, my theory there is that, again, without evaluating those specific players, because I'm not a guy who rates and ranks high school football players. I wait until I see them on the field in college. This is the deal, Ben. that when you're an elite program that brings in elite talent, we can all point to all these major programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia that bring in great recruiting classes, and they miss. They're going to miss on some guys. But the reason they're so deep and the reason they have so many superstars come through there is that when you bring in 4 and 5 receivers, for example, at that position, they're not all going to hit, but they're all 5 and 4 stars. And so if you bring in 6 of them and 3 of them one of them turns out to be a star and 3 of them turn out to be really good players and maybe 2 of them are busts, then you're fine. You're good. You don't need all of them to hit. Therefore, Dan Mullen is kind of bridging his way to get to that level to where he's bringing in masses of talent. And so not all of them, he doesn't have to bank on one guy hitting. He's going to bring in 4 or 5 4 and 5 stars at a particular position, and knowing the probabilities say that 60% of them are going to hit. So he brings in 5 running backs and 3 of them hit, and he's good to go. So the answer to your question is that most likely, based on Florida's improved recruiting and specifically the players that you're talking about at running back, that they should be able to upgrade that position.
And then on the other side, Bob, I want to ask you a quick question about Todd Grantham. So Dan Mullen said something earlier on, like I think right after, I think it was like the day of, right after Florida got announced they were going to play Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. He said something along the lines of, Todd Grantham will be the defensive coordinator for the Cotton Bowl, which I found kind of interesting, kind of weird, because I don't know why you would say that unless a question was brought up about the defense. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on Todd Grantham, Todd Grantham's job security within, because I know Dan Mullen's been behind him a lot this year, so what are your opinion on his job security with Dan Mullen and just overall, the Florida football program? What do you think his job security is?
Well, if you're relaying that statement by Dan Mullen accurately, then you're telling me that nobody posed the question to Dan Mullen about Todd Grantham's job status, but he took the initiative to I guess, squash some rumors that Todd Grantham would be at least coaching that game. That doesn't seem like much of a vote of confidence. Number one, if I'm Dan Mullen and I'm secure in Todd Grantham's position, I've reviewed it, I believe that he, despite the struggles on the defensive side of the ball, that he's the guy for the job and I want to bring him back for 2021, I would say absolutely nothing if I'm not asked about it. And specifically, I wouldn't say just point to that specific game and say he's going to be here through the Cotton Bowl, because if you read between the lines, it sounds like that possibly they will be parting ways. There are all sorts of coaches. I'm looking at Miami in particular that got rid of an offensive coordinator just minutes after their bowl game last year that was much speculated, and the head coach confirmed that he'd be coaching the bowl game, and then sure enough, right after the bowl game, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was just wondering that, and then stuff, because I'm not sure if there was a question asked. I just heard something. I heard the clip of him saying Todd Grantham will be. I'm not sure if there was a question asked about his job security, if he would be the defensive coordinator going into the Cotton Bowl, what that was. But even if there was a question that arose, that just seems weird that somebody would ask, will Todd Grantham be, if the coach for the Cotton Bowl, especially if, I don't really expect Mullen to say, no, he's not going to be, the coach for the Cotton Bowl. So it just sounded like a weird thing. It was just kind of weird to me. So I want to know your opinion on that. And then finally, I do have a quick question for you, Mark. So is your favorite team Miami? Because me and my friends were talking about it one day. Is your favorite team Miami?
So Ben, what I'm going to do is, how long have you been watching me?
For about a year now.
A year?
About a year.
Okay.
Since about January.
You've been watching me for a year, and you haven't figured out who my favorite team is. So that makes me sound like I might be doing my job fairly well, because there are tons of people that are watching right now that know my favorite team, because I'm not reluctant to tell people, but I do find it amusing when people can't figure it out, because that's the type of channel that I run. I just want to be unbiased and cut it straight, and I want to be analytical, and I want to be able to rate and rank the teams and evaluate the teams fairly, and keep my bias out of it and my favoritism out of it for my particular team as much as possible. So we'll make a deal, Ben. If you keep watching for the next month and you can't figure out who my favorite team is, then I will tell you in a month.
All right.
All right.
I've never been able to figure out, but I'm gonna do my hardest now to figure it out.
But you think it's Miami? Why? Why do you think it's Miami?
I think I've seen your Miami stuff, and you report on Miami recruiting. Like one of the earlier callers said, you report on Miami recruiting. Like at least that's the most I see from you. I watch most of your live streams. That's about all. And then I watch like your top 25 that makes sense. So Miami, and then I don't know. It just seems like what I've seen makes me think you're a Miami fan. Then I look at the live chat and I see somebody that said you're a Buckeyes fan. So, and then I see a bunch of Buckeyes fans in the live chat. So that just makes me think you're a Buckeyes fan. I don't know.
I got accused by 3 people on Twitter yesterday of being a Michigan fan. A Michigan
fan. If you're a Michigan fan, I feel bad for you.
And I think it was last month, something like 8 of my top 10 most viewed videos were Michigan videos. So maybe I should become a Michigan fan.
I don't think you should become a Michigan fan.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to change me at this stage of life. I've been the fan that I've been for 40 years, so I don't think that's going to change.
So yeah, I'm gonna do my best to figure out. I don't know why I haven't noticed yet, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of your other videos I've watched. I don't know how I haven't noticed it yet, but I've always wondered since the first video I watched. I've always wondered. So I'm gonna figure this out for you.
Okay,
then if I can't figure it out, if I can't figure it out by today, next month, the 26th of January, I'll call and ask.
Okay, we got a deal.
All right, that's a deal. All right, have a good night, Mark.
Thanks, Ben. We'll talk to you soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Wink, wink. All right. Dale Sherm's asking, Mark, will image and likeness cure or ruin college football? I don't know that it's going to cure or ruin college football, either one. I think it can be effectively managed. I think that we live in America and people should be able to earn a living. Therefore, I think that that is by far the best, not a perfect way, but the best way for these young men to earn some money for the work that they put in, and it comes straight from the public that supports them. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
Hey, McD, I'm doing good. What's going on?
I'm doing pretty good. I want to talk about this Coastal Carolina Liberty game that we're still trying to digest. First of all, what a game. I mean, that's what a bowl game should be. Those teams, I think if they face each other 100 times, they'll be 50-50. Coastal will win 50 and Liberty will win 50. But Liberty won. And what I think what it came down to was Liberty's quarterback. His name escapes me. I got to look it up. But very good quarterback. Can really run the ball. And Coastal Carolina, I mean, they were playing to be spies on the quarterback, but they always seem out of position. Like, I remember one, the quarterback went off on for like 30 yards, and the QB spy was on the other hash mark and basically gave him the whole the whole right side of the field, the quarterback, the whole right side of the field for 30 yards. So, I feel like their QB spies just didn't really do well.
Were you looking for the name Malik Willis?
Yeah, Malik Willis, that's his name.
Yeah, the Auburn transfer. Do you remember him at Auburn?
Not really. I vaguely do.
So this was the season after Nick Marshall was the quarterback, or it might have been when Nick Marshall got hurt. He came in one game against Arkansas, and he just lit it up. He only had about 15 pass attempts, but he threw 3 or 4 touchdowns, lit it up. And then the next season, so he didn't play the rest of the season, so they were all hyped up that he was going to have a great career there. He started the opener. It was a kickoff classic type, one of those first week neutral site games against Louisville. And he was awful. And he was within 2 or 3 games, he got benched. And that was pretty much the end of his run at Auburn.
Man, that was several years ago.
Yeah, that's been a while.
Yeah. No, I thought he played outstanding tonight. But I mean, you can't have a QB spy on the left hash mark and the ball is on the right hash mark. You're just basically giving them that whole field. You're going to get beat every time. That's why they lost the game. They just, I mean, overall, by the way, their running backs were Liberty. I don't know what he was doing, fumbling the ball there at the goal line right there, but overall, it was just a great game. But I do want to talk about 2 other things I'm seeing. The first thing I'm seeing is with Oklahoma State, with Trevor Hubbard deciding to opt out.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe in opting out bowl games. I think he should, and he'll be sitting there on the sideline and stuff. I honestly think he should not be sitting on the sideline. I'll go a step farther. I think his scholarships should be taken away for opting out of a bowl game.
Okay, before I address that, McD, and I'll get right on that, I want to correct myself because anytime I screw something up, I am definitely going to come clean on this one. And as I was saying that, I knew that there wasn't something quite right about what I was saying about Malik Willis. So Malik Willis did transfer from Auburn, and the player I'm thinking about is Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson is the quarterback I'm thinking of who was battling Sean White for the Auburn quarterback job, but that was a couple of years before that. And he had a big game against Arkansas. Then he was the starter the next year, bombed against Louisville, and never got the job back. He's the guy that I was thinking of. So anyway, so I am right on board with you when it comes to that. Basically, a scholarship is a contract. And these student athletes are giving a lot of preferential treatment. They're given meals and housing and a free education for the work that they provide. Well, if they're not going to complete the work they provide, the understanding is that as long as they're healthy and eligible academically, that they are to go to practice and go to the meetings and go to all the team activities and play in all the games.
Yep. I mean, I can't disagree with a word you said there. I mean, and I'm not saying this because of the whole incident involving him and Mike Gundy in the off season. Just to let everybody know, I'm saying this as I would say for really every other player that decides to opt out of a bowl game, especially a top 25 matchup. Like ran in the Cheez-It Bowl. I mean, I don't think the Cheez-It Bowl usually gets top 25 matchups, but I really think him opting out is an absolute disgrace. A few other notes. There's a motion going out. I think it was actually brought out by Joel Klatt. I know the previous caller, 2 callers ago, mentioned that there needs to be a 16 team. There needs to be a 16 team playoff. I think it should be 8 teams personally. 16 is just too much. I honestly think 12 is too much, and I just think it needs to be 8 teams. And I'll tell you how it should be this offseason, because I'm not going to sit here and go 20 minutes spiel about it when I know you have other calls coming. But I think there'll only be 8 teams in the playoffs. So,
well,
just want to make that point.
As soon as the season's over, we're done talking about what just happened. I'm going to release my scheduling plan and my college football playoff plan. So we will get those released, and we'll have much to talk about.
Absolutely. The third thing I want to say is I've mentioned that Coastal Carolina, they should have been the New Year's Six Bowl team. Despite losing, I am not backing off that. I still think they were the best Group of 5 team before coming into tonight. Like, all these people saying Coastal Carolina got exposed and stuff, they didn't get exposed. They lost the game in overtime as they were down 31-19 and came back. Now, granted, they probably should have lost in regular time because the Liberty running back made a dumb play, but I'm not going to sit here and back off that comment I made saying Coastal should be on New Year's Six Bowl over Cincinnati.
Yeah, when a team gets exposed, that means that they show that they clearly aren't capable of competing, that they're exposed, meaning that they're not up to the competition, that they're not up to that level of play, and that wasn't what happened tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting exposed. It's like Ohio State losing the past years against Purdue and Iowa. That's all getting exposed. But overall, one other quick thing. I know you had a show yesterday about things I wish, so I didn't get a chance to call in, but I wish that Maryland could make a bowl game next year. I mean, we're 2 and 3. We're going to be in a bowl game this year, but we decided to opt out. And I think we will be in a bowl game next year. I do. Now, granted, I don't know about – I think Ohio State's going to be clearly better than us. But outside of that, I mean, Indiana, we'll see if it's a one-year fluke or not. Michigan State's still going to be kind of in the toilet. I don't think Rutgers is really going to be much better than what they were this year. And we'll see with Penn State and Michigan. I mean, Penn State, I think it could be I don't know, last year was a fluke or where was it this past year. But and Michigan, I personally think Michigan's going to have a bad season in 2021. I think it's going to get ugly pretty quickly because Jim Harbaugh has no vote of confidence there. So we'll see what happens. But I think Maryland could be second place in the Big Ten East. I could see that, depending on some of these teams. I know, is Penix coming back for Indiana? Do you know from the top of your head?
I would sure hope so. Where do you think he's going to go?
Ryan,
unless he's going to transfer.
I forgot if he was a senior or not.
No, even if he's a senior, he better come back. He needs a lot of work before he's going to be in an NFL training camp.
Yeah. And one other quick note, this headline just popped up on my screen here. De'Aaron King, he's staying for another year. What do you think about that?
Well, again, I think that it's much needed. For him personally, he's not prepared to go to the NFL. He's improved considerably this year as a passer, but he's still not ready for the NFL. And for Miami, De'Aaron King's the best quarterback that they've had possibly since Ken Dorsey. So, absolutely, it's a huge win for Miami.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. But that's all I have for you, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. Go Terps. One other quick thing. Dan Mullen's a dumb human being.
Okay. Thanks, McD. Appreciate it, man. I just missed that last call. So give me a call back, and I will catch up with you. Eric Scott says, Coastal Carolina's quarterback Grayson McCall is awesome. I think he's going to have a lot of schools trying to get him into the portal. Tennessee could really use a guy like him. Bam! You nailed it there, Jarek. Tennessee. You talk about a quarterback that needs a school that needs a quarterback. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Gonna make you my guilt nigger. Stupid nigger king has been.
Okay, they're starting early. I couldn't get my hands on the phone quick enough, just because when I heard that delay, I knew we had some trouble. There's another possibility right there, Lenny. McCall to Nebraska. You guys are scouting these group of 5 quarterbacks. It's not a bad idea either. Jarrett, Grayson McCall is definitely getting poached. Kid looks too clean to be at Coastal Carolina. No offense if there are any Coastal Carolina fans. No offense. Gotcha. Yeah, Coconut Cane. It doesn't mean that De'Ara King's going to guarantee some type of championship run, but look at your team now versus look at what you did last year, going 6-7. Other than De'Ara King and having a capable kicker, there's not a whole lot different about your team this year than what you had last year. Your defense actually might have been better last year than it was this year. And you won 8 out of 10 games. We're going to find out a lot more about Miami against Oklahoma State, because Miami played the type schedule where everybody was below them, significantly below them. They played a lot of top 40 to 50 teams in the country. And when I go top 40, that might be a little bit kind. Top 50. And they had the one game against Clemson, completely out of their class. And they had the one game against North Carolina that they should have been able to compete with North Carolina on their tier, and they got obliterated. So this game against Oklahoma State is going to be interesting, and it's going to tell us a lot about Miami being prepared to play at a top 15 to 20 level. Ben, Mark, do you think Saban can win 3 more college football playoffs, counting this one? Yes. That's an easy answer. Yes, he can if he would want to. And I'm not saying if he stays that he definitely would win 3. But is he capable? Can he? Yes. He has the best team this year. They should win the national championship. If they don't, I won't be surprised. Clemson and Ohio State are capable of beating Alabama, but Alabama's got the best team. And they, again, brought in the best recruiting class, and they've got that thing rolling. Nick Saban has not shown any signs of letting up, lessening, weakening, has lost nothing. Yes, he could win 3 more national championships. Bleach Orange, I do want to say the most shocking improvement in the ACC this season was NC State, totally expecting Doran to be fired, and he went and did that. Okay, the record looks good. Good job, Dave Doran. I posted a video in the offseason about Dave Doran and why he wasn't fired at some point going into this season. Think about this. Think about NC State football and your expectations of NC State football. They typically go 7-5, 8-4. That's NC State, right? They go to the Belk Bowl. They go to the Music City Bowl. That's about their level. Go 7-5, 8-4. Go to the Belk Bowl, the Music City Bowl. That type of program. Okay. If you're going 7-5 and 8-4 every year, you would consider to be a pretty decent team in the ACC. Well, Dave Doran, coming into this season in 7 years in the ACC, had gone 21-35 in conference play. That's winning 37% of his games in conference against that conference, playing Syracuse and Boston College and Louisville every year, winning 37% of his conference games. which tells you what? That tells you that NC State has gone to bowl games most seasons. You know what? Every bowl game they've ever gone to, this has been the reason why they've made bowl games, because they schedule East Carolina, Old Dominion, Liberty. Those are the kind of games that they schedule out of conference. I cut a video on Dave Doran in the offseason and completely exposed this program as a less than marginal program coming into this season. Dave Doran's record against ranked teams. How many do you think he's won in 17 top 25 matchups? Dave Doran, 8 seasons at NC State, 7 seasons coming into this year against ranked teams, 1-16. He beat like a number 23 Louisville team one time. That's it. 1-17 against the top 25. So this year at 8-3, yes. Nice job by Dave Doran. Nice job by NC State. However, NC State was the only team in the ACC that did not play either Clemson or Notre Dame. They also did not play Clemson and Notre Dame, the 2 best teams in the conference. They were the only team not to play those 2. Had they played those 2, their 8-3 season would have been a 6-5 season. So let's not go too overboard about what was accomplished at NC State this year. D.B. Shashi didn't get voted most likely to become a comedian in my senior high school yearbook. No? Western Michigan, according to Shanghai Bricks, has the best football program in the state of Michigan. There you go, Chris Bradford. Yes, look it up. Now, this season, they did go 7-3 in the conference. They did go 7-3 this year in the conference. So add that on to 21-35, and they are now 28-38 in the ACC under Dave Doran against that conference.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to. The call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
This is Curtis. Curtis from Cambodia.
All right. How you doing?
Doing okay. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. What's up?
Hey, wanted to call and talk about the Big Ten bowl schedule here.
Okay.
And look, for the first time in my memory that we actually have a favorable bowl lineup, comparable teams that we're playing.
Yeah, I'll be interested to get your take because I certainly have mine. Go ahead.
Well, I just think that, obviously the Ohio State-Clemson game, that's going to be a tough task, but the other matchup being Northwestern and Auburn, I like Northwestern's chances there. Auburn can't score, and Northwestern's got that great defense. And then, the Indiana-Ole Miss game, Indiana's got pretty good defense. I think they can slow down the lane train there.
Okay. So you like Indiana?
Iowa,
Yeah, keep going.
Iowa, Missouri, and Wisconsin, Wake Forest. I just think it's a favorable lineup for the Big Ten this year. Just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
My thoughts are that I generally get a little annoyed when people start comparing bowl records by conference. So, for example, as you probably know, ESPN will give out some kind of trophy, I forget what they call it, to the conference that has the best bowl record. Well, it's a completely bogus and ridiculous trophy because they're not measuring the difficulty of the schedules played. And so the Mountain West will go 7-2 in bowl games and they'll give them some kind of trophy. And then people will just banty about bowl records. The Big Ten went 4-5, they must suck. And this conference went 6-3, they must be better. Well, what needs to be understood is, it sounds like you probably do. Traditionally, most years, the SEC and the Big Ten play the most difficult bowl schedules. And there's a couple of reasons why. They advance into the college football playoff and also into the former BCS bowl games, and the current New Year's Six bowl games are taken up traditionally most years, not this year by the Big Ten, but most years, mostly by SEC and Big Ten teams. So once the seedings are broken down and the teams are slotted into the bowl slots, what I like about the bowl games is that we typically get fair matchups. We get a third place team from the Pac-12 playing a third place team from the Big 12. We get a fourth place team in the ACC playing a fourth or fifth place team in the SEC, and they don't match up perfectly, but they're generally like seeded teams. But because the Big Ten and the SEC tend to slot teams up into the New Year's Six, that means they have to play more difficult teams, because let's say their fifth place team might have to play a third place team from another conference. And if you look year to year, the SEC and the Big Ten play more ranked teams, they play tougher teams, and then they also play each other in those three bowl games, typically the Outback Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, and in the past, in the Gator Bowl, not this season, but in the Gator Bowl, and if they don't play in a college football playoff game. So typically the Big Ten has played a difficult schedule that can't be measured against, let's say, the ACC, because the ACC will play a lot of group of five teams. If you look at the ACC from year to year, there's a number of games that they play that they're contractually obligated to play, where the Virginias and the North Carolinas in the past will be playing Temple and Memphis and Cincinnati and so forth, where the Big Ten hardly ever plays a group of five team in a bowl game. Okay, let's fast forward to this year. The disappointment about the bowl schedule this year for the Big Ten, for me, is that actually it's the opposite. They didn't get any other teams into the New Year's Six. The SEC, in addition to Alabama playing in the college football playoff, has, of course, Florida, Georgia, and Texas A&M playing in the New Year's Six. So that's three teams in the New Year's Six. Therefore, when it all gets sorted out and slotted, you've got an Indiana team that I have ranked 7th or 8th in the country. I don't know what they're ranked in by the committee. I think 11th. And they're playing a 4-5 Ole Miss team. Then you've got Iowa, who is legitimately a top 15 team in the country, playing a 5-5 Missouri team. And you've got Northwestern playing Auburn. Sure, Auburn 6-4. Northwestern was just a 2-loss team that made the conference championship game. So if you're looking for wins by the Big Ten, they should be able to fare well. But if you're looking for good matchups, it's just a weird year, and therefore they're not playing that good of competition.
I agree 100%. So it's kind of like so my point in saying that was that, kind of the first year that I can remember where the Big Ten gets to play the lesser teams instead of having to punch up.
Absolutely.
They're kind of maybe punching down a little bit this year.
Yeah, they usually have to punch up.
All the reasons you said too.
They usually have to punch up.
With the BCS and all that.
There was a game a couple of years ago they played, and this is not just one. I'll just give it as an example, as you well know, that Minnesota went 3-6 in the Big Ten a couple of years ago, and they played a 5-3 team in Georgia Tech that was tied for like third place in the conference, and Minnesota was like 10th in the Big Ten, and they played I forget which bowl game it was, and Minnesota won the game. So yes, the Big Ten is typically, because they've advanced a lot of teams into the New Year's Six, which is good for the conference because they make a lot of money and get a lot of prestige for that. But yes, they have to slot up and they have to play unfair. Just look at last year's game in the Rose Bowl, for example, where Oregon is the Pac-12 champion. Well, the Big Ten's not sending its champion to go play Oregon. They're sending really the 3rd seed in the conference because Penn State was really the 2 seed, and Wisconsin's going out to play the Rose Bowl to represent the Big Ten.
Right. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing that's happened during the BCS and now the playoff era. Ohio State would be out at the Rose Bowl almost as much as USC was there during the early 2000s, and those would have been great games, but Ohio State gets put into the championship game and then on down the line it goes, and so you got teams that probably shouldn't have been playing in that game, but Illinois comes to mind, the year with Mendenhall and Juice Williams, and or Iowa going out there and getting just spanked by Stanford. That just, if the Big Ten would have sent their better games, maybe a chance for a win there.
That was an odd season in that.
I'm still old enough to be a little bit of a traditionalist on this. I still want to see the Big Ten. I want to see the Buckeyes or the Big Ten's best go out to Pasadena every year.
Sure.
I wish there was a way that we could change it and then have the playoff after that, if that's possible.
Well, okay. Well, you're talking about a whole different deal. But even within the confines of the current system, that 2015, if I was involved in the Big Ten office, if I was running the show, I understand that Iowa was undefeated before they lost the Big Ten championship game in 2015, but they should have sent Ohio State out to the Rose Bowl to play Stanford and not Iowa. That was not a good look.
No. Yeah, that's the year that. That's the year that brought up all the guys that are opting out for these bowl games now, because Ohio State went out to the desert, and that was the linebacker. It was named Jalen Smith from Notre Dame on the second play of the game. Blew out his knee. Nobody touched him, and now everybody's opting out. How do you? The genie's out of the bottle. How do you put it back in? Expanding the playoffs, I don't think you can do that. I mean, you sacrifice the regular season, and I'm more of a traditionalist than, in high school in the 90s and watching the Buckeyes lose to that team up north every year and a chance to go to the Rose Bowl and whatnot. How much the Rose Bowl meant back then, and what would that? And if the playoffs were, still in Pasadena this year, would they have sent Ohio State out there against Clemson, or would they have said, no, we're going to put Notre Dame and Alabama out there? That's another question. Hey, wait a minute, that's the Big Ten's traditional stomping grounds there. And maybe they would have put Bama in New Orleans, which is their traditional place to play too. I don't know. I just there's just something about watching the Buckeyes or even that team up north or whoever go out and playing in Pasadena and watching the sunset over the San Gabriel Mountains at about 5:30 or whatnot. And that's why it's New Year's Day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Dennis is telling us here, since 1999, the Big Ten is 205 and 213 in bowl games against the other Power 5 conferences. Ain't doing too well to put them in the same breath as the SEC, LMAO. 418 games. Let me do the math on that. Okay, that is just over 20 seasons, 99 through 2020 through 2019. So that's only 20 seasons, 21 seasons, 418 bowl games in 20 seasons. They're not playing 20 bowl games a season. So Dennis, you might want to do some math there. So Dennis, we can't take your statistics. We can't take them seriously when they don't make any sense. So the Big Ten is not playing over 20 bowl games a season. Sorry, I don't think that works. But
yeah, I think his percentages are pretty accurate, though. I think
probably
about 50% against the other Power 5, And actually, I believe against the SEC, Herb Street, says this number every so often. They're about 500 against the SEC.
Are they?
Now, and not over maybe the last 15 years or something like that.
Yeah, I would guess they're more in the 40% range.
Maybe, 40%. But the SEC does have better teams. I hate to admit that and everything, but they also live in an echo chamber quite often too. So,
I know it. Yep.
Anyways, happy holidays from Cambodia, and keep up the good work, and try to get a hold of you another time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Call anytime. We appreciate the call. Thank you.
All right.
Press 1 to start the call, or 2 to the call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Alrighty, Mark. So it's Ben. I just had to call back because I think I figured it out. Is your favorite team Ohio State?
Okay, Ben. So you were going to call me in a month, weren't you?
Yeah, but I think I figured it out. I watched a couple of your older videos, and I think I figured it out.
Watched my older videos. Would you do a YouTube search? What did you search?
I just looked up a couple of your live streams.
Yeah.
From a couple months ago, and then I figured it out. And then I saw some stuff, and I just saw a bunch of Buckeyes fans in this chat, and I think it's Ohio State.
Well, you would be right, Ben.
Yes. All right. All right, Mark. Sorry
you caught me
twice, but sorry for calling twice. But I figured it out, and I couldn't let that 1 month go on. I had to tell you. So thanks, Mark.
That's all right, Ben. You caught me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Well, Ben's been watching me for a year. And Ben is certainly high on the intelligence list based on his phone call. So for him not to be able to figure out in a year who I root for, I got to feel pretty good about that. Lenny, I thought Mark was a Barner. Oh, man. I don't really mind or care that anyone knows who I root for, but I do find it amusing and interesting when people guess and don't know. All right. I have so many ideas of videos to post after the season's over. But you're going to see some good videos coming up here soon. We just posted videos today on LSU, Alabama. We're going to look at the Orange Bowl. We're going to look at the ACC bowl games that are coming up. And you guys know the deal. Just keep it locked in here. And I also want to let everyone know we will find our banner that goes along with it. And again, this is almost too sad to talk about. Ty Jordan, freshman running back at Utah, died of a gunshot wound. Apparently shot himself accidentally. 19 years old. So we wanted to dedicate this particular live stream to him, and all our prayers and thoughts go out to his family and friends. Just a tragic, tragic loss there. So we know that since the pandemic started, the average person spends almost 3 hours of their day on their cell phones, just looking at their cell phones. So if you own a small business, don't lose out on the opportunity to get your business in front of millions of users. And on Facebook, that's 2.6 billion on Facebook. My friends at Verma Digital are helping me grow my brand, which it severely needs that, and they've done a tremendous job in helping me thus far. they will help you as well, the small business owner. So there you've got the link right there, vermadigital.com. Please go there for an absolutely free consultation. Say my name, Mark, M-A-R-K, spelled with a K, for 100%, or rather the free consultation. And then if you mention my name, Mark, you get 10% discount on all services offered. All right, that's at Verma Digital, our fine friends at Verma Digital that have helped me tremendously, because we need to grow this thing rapidly, fast, needs to ramp up in a hurry. And thanks to all of you, we're on our way. So we've grown quite a bit here in the last couple of months that I've been able to do this full time. Not that I didn't do it full time when I was at ESPN full time, that I wasn't putting in full-time hours here as well. But now that I'm able to focus and concentrate solely on this, you guys have done an amazing job helping me. So please support. This will continue to thrive and grow based on your individual contributions. And also, please listen, if you know of a sponsor, whether you own a small business or any kind of business, or work at a business, or have a contact with somebody that would be a tremendous sponsor for us, if you think in any way that any connection that you have to a business that could benefit from sponsorship here, please contact me at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. We need to get sponsors for these shows. That is vital. All right. We will be back here Monday for sure. Monday night for sure, possibly tomorrow. Man, I've got all sorts of video ideas that I would like to get on. Many of them involve the players that still have not signed in the 2021 class after the early signing period that are still out there. Also, in regards to breaking down all these bowl games that are coming up as well. And then once the offseason hits, don't go away just because it's no longer college football season, because we will be going full throttle. And that's when, aside from not being able to watch the college football games, that's when I love to roll up my sleeves and really dig into ratings and rankings and evaluations. So we will do that. And of course, I'm going to release my 8 or 16 team playoff, whatever my playoff system turns out to be. We will revise what we've done in past years, and also my schedule release. We are going to fix college football this offseason. We together are going to fix college football. And maybe somebody will listen to us. But again, if you've got a small business and maybe you've taken a hit during this pandemic, there are people that are just on their phones. People are locked up. People are on their phones. People are on these devices more than ever before. Chris Mays, thank you so much for the kind comments tonight. We appreciate you. So go to Verma Digital. They are hooking me up, and they will do the same for you with a free consultation. David, 6 to 8 teams. Let's go 8. 6 does not work. So we would have to go 8. 6 doesn't work. Ben, Mark, what are your thoughts on West Virginia in 2021? 4th best recruiting class in the Big 12. A lot of returning starters. Speed on the outside. Letty Brown, of course, is really good, and really good coaching staff with Neil Brown. For us to really have an exceptional, a really pinpoint, clear picture of any of these teams, we're going to have to wait for all these transfers to settle. There's going to be a shakeup in college football this offseason like never before, between the transfer portal being overrun probably 5 to 10 times more this offseason than last offseason. We're going to see so many transfers this year. And then take your favorite college football team and consider all the seniors that are eligible to leave the program and understand that they are now eligible because of the pandemic to come back. And we're going to see teams with senior classes of, let's say, just throw out a number, 20 players. And we're going to see, let's say, LSU out of those 20 seniors have 17 that say, we're coming back. And let's say Alabama's got 20 that say only 9 of them come back. There's going to be a great discrepancy between rival teams within a conference that are competing for championships, where some teams will have significant numbers come back and others won't. And then again, the transfers, and then we still have about 10 to 15% of the 2021 class has yet to be signed in February. So my evaluation of anybody is going to have to wait for a couple months. But yes, West Virginia fielded an excellent defense, probably the third best defense in the Big 12. I would take Iowa State and I would take Oklahoma State's defenses over West Virginia this year, but probably the third, statistically, the best defense in the Big 12. But in actuality, the third best defense in the Big 12. They need to fix the quarterback. I was not overly impressed with Seth Daggy. Did I see West Virginia play a lot of football this year? No. But yes, Neil Brown knows what he's doing. Good coaching staff, good recruiting, good defense that should be coming back. And it's the West Virginia level of team that may be able to find an opportunity in 2021. The reason why is that the big teams, the elite teams, will have their players moving on. It's going to be possibly, we'll have to see it play out. This is a theory that the second and third tier teams would be the ones to have more players come back to repeat their senior seasons. They're going to have less NFL ready players. And they're going to have older teams, more experienced teams playing, a little bit less talented than the teams that they competed against in their conference, but more experience and more productivity coming back. So that's something to look out for. All right, everybody. Good to see you in the live chat. Keep it locked in here now. And we will be back possibly tomorrow, but certainly on Monday night. Hit that bell for the notifications. I hope that everybody that's listening to me right now is subscribed. I hope. And if you've got a favorite team between some of my sub-channels, so many of you probably aren't aware that I've got sub-channels. And if you like a particular team, let's say you're a Clemson fan, please subscribe to my Clemson channel. Just go to the Voice of College Football, Clemson. Subscribe to the channel. Full disclosure, we're always transparent, always honest here at Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football. You are not going to find any additional content there. It's all going to be Clemson, so you're going to have it all right there for you, that you're not going to have to search for it, but it's not going to be anything different than you get here. But as soon as we get to 1,000 subscribers on these channels, then we will, much like our Miami channel, provide unique content to those channels. We've got a Michigan channel that we would love to get to 1,000 subs because we are posting content there and it's getting a ton of response. We're getting great views at our Michigan channel, but unfortunately it's not monetized. We need to get to 1,000 subs. So if you're an Oregon fan, USC, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, I said, Miami, USC, and anybody in the SEC, then please search for those channels and please subscribe. Or if you just want to build the vision, you see the vision and just want to help us, go sub to all those channels. That would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. Bleach Orange, thank you so much. Bama fan, Drone Chaser, good to see you. Ben, thanks for the call. DB Sashi, Yes, make a Florida channel and put Ben on it. We could do that. Good stuff. All right. Good to see everyone. I'm kind of hungry. I think we're going to eat late night tonight and get some things done for the channel. And we'll be back in some form, whether that be on tape or live tomorrow, but definitely live Monday night. Keep it locked in. See you soon. I appreciate everybody pushing for more likes. Thank you.